Howdy friendos, my name is Stuart, and welcome back to a galaxy far, far away. If you haven't checked out our Star Wars videos covering Rey, Kylo Ren, Boba Fett, Mando, Grogu, Qui-Gon, and I have done a lot of Star Wars videos. Anyway, we'll be covering arguably one of the most infamous prequel characters, and that is Jar Jar Binks of Naboo. Star Wars has had a, let's call it an interesting relationship with humor. Despite being a space drama dealing with space Gestapo, wizard samurais, and spaghetti westerns with blasters, there have been humor and comic relief characters here or there as far back as the original trilogy. And it's important to note that comic relief is not a bad thing. Obviously, I love comedic characters. I've done videos on many of them. You just need to levy your break from it with all the drama, and you basically need a break between drama and comedy, and you gotta balance it well. And it may have worked well with C-3PO and R2-D2 back in the original trilogy, but Jar Jar has been a bit of contention for a while, and he's been cited as one of the main problems of the prequels. And it's kind of a shame, because I actually like Jar Jar, and I think he's one of the more underrated characters in Star Wars that gets a really bad rep. And I'm not memeing. I actually really like Jar Jar. Y'all are sleeping on this character. He's actually pretty okay. It's better than what you think. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Jar Jar is some, like, great overlooked character. There's plenty of jokes and bits of bad writing that are just really bad, and it's just a case of introduction, and it's just unfortunate that Jar Jar's been fucked over by the machinations of the bad guy, too. And that's not even counting that his actor has gotten a really bad rap from everybody about this. So, you know, don't blame the actor, just cite it as a case of lost opportunity. And originally, this video was framed with the idea of looking at Darth Jar Jar and that whole theory, but you know what? Let's just play it straight. Let's give Jar Jar a fair shot, and let's actually look at this character from beginning to where he is currently in the canon. And I'm gonna be honest, like, giving his backstory isn't really that complicated. He is a Gungan native to the planet of Naboo. Jar Jar was seen as a local pariah due to his clumsiness, and he was ejected from his society because of it. That's it. That's the beginning of the movie, and we will see him at the standard true neutral. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and all of those things, please. If you want me to do more prequel characters, including Anakin, I really need to see that you guys are interested in Star Wars. And with that out of the way, let's go. However, before we go, did you know that you can watch the next 3 alignment videos ahead of schedule by becoming a channel member, a patron, or a Twitch subscriber? Whichever one is most convenient for you, you can just go ahead and do that. Becoming any of these premium members gives you access to the next 3 alignment videos on your select platform and gives you a spot at the end credits of our alignment videos and gaming videos. Each membership also gives you access to another unique set of benefits. YouTube Premium gives you access to stickers and emojis not available anywhere else, and sometimes a 4th bonus alignment video. Patreon gives you access to monthly wallpapers, lore packets, and access to the uncut archive of our D&D campaigns. And Twitch gives you access to a different set of emote stickers and access to our entire streaming library. If you're especially ambitious and want to collect all 3 Infinity Stones of the Loading Crew, this gives you access to a special title in our Discord. It's mostly bragging rights, but hey, you're better than everyone else. Check any of the links in the description to gain access and help support the channel.
So our minds may be as one.
Get out of here!
While running from the invading droid army, Jar Jar is saved by Qui-Gon Jinn. Despite Qui-Gon saying no, Jar Jar offers his services as a humble servant, citing the gods would want this, lawful neutral.
What's this? Let's get out of here before more droids show up.
More? More did you speak?
Joining up with Qui-Gon's apprentice and learning more droids are coming, Jar Jar offers to take the group to his hidden city. He's worried about returning to a city that he's been exiled from, but after Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan convinced him, Jar Jar leads the way, lawful good.
So good being home.
Captured moments after arriving back home, Jar Jar is brought before the Gungans to be punished. With Qui-Gon's help, Jar Jar is given his freedom due to the earlier life debt. Despite wanting to go back, Jar Jar guides the Jedi, lawful good. Making it through the core, Jar Jar follows instructions and stays out of the way, rescuing the court. He does talk with Padme when she's in the back cleaning R2, but stays out of trouble, lawful neutral.
This son doing murder to Misa Sin.
Landing on Tatooine, Jar Jar goes with Qui-Gon to collect the ship parts. Despite being told not to touch anything, Jar Jar proceeds to mess with the droids, chaotic neutral.
Ah, moi.
Yeah, no defending this one. Jar Jar just starts eating food at the stands, accidentally getting Sebulba's attention. His bad manners continues in the Skywalker home when he begins eating food with his tongue. Jar Jar isn't trying to be malicious, but he isn't really thinking about his manners, so chaotic neutral again. With everyone putting their trust in Anakin to win the pod race, Jar Jar helps get the pod racer up and running. He's naturally overjoyed when the young boy wins, and he helps bring his pack parts to the ship. Lawful good.
You're thinking, people gonna die?
I don't know.
With the Senate slowing everything to a crawl, thanks bureaucracy, and Padme worried about Naboo, Jar Jar brings up the Gungan Grand Army. This is to try and help Padme feel better about her people, but this also sparks the idea to bring the fight to the Trade Federation. Neutral good.
Issa, Your Highness?
Yes. I need your help.
Returning to Naboo with no plan, Padme asks Jar Jar to help find the Gungans. When Jar Jar finds the village empty, he breaks more traditions by bringing the people of Naboo to a secret, sacred place for the Gungans to convince them to join forces. Lawful good.
Bad General.
General?
Jar Jar is promoted to General for the upcoming fight with the Federation, a notion he's terrified of. Despite his inexperience and some comic relief, Jar Jar does try his best to fight with some moments of fear overtaking him. Lawful good. And I will give him at least one chaotic neutral for the immediate surrender. And yeah, Anakin saves them, but Jar Jar is pretty overtaken by the situation and is ready to call it quits. Chaotic neutral. Following the Phantom Menace and his career as a successful general, Jar Jar joins politics. Working alongside Padme, Jar Jar works for 10 years to let his voice be heard. And, I think by default, politics lawful evil at least twice. And no, that's not a meme. Following Padme's attempted assassination, Jar Jar welcomes his old friends Obi-Wan and Anakin. He's nice to a very confused and hormonal Anakin, at least as the Jedi help Padme in a time of crisis. Neutral good.
I sense it too.
After another failed assassination attempt and orders from both the Jedi and Palpatine, Padme gives her duties to Jar Jar. Jar Jar accepts the heavy burden. Lawful good for this act and wanting to help out.
Are you just gonna sit here and let him die? He's your friend, your mentor.
He's like my father.
With Padme, Anakin, and Obi-Wan all in danger and evidence that several planets are forming their own army, Jar Jar overhears that the Senator must give Palpatine the power to make the clones the official army to stop the Separatists. To be absolutely fair, Jar Jar knows the gravity of his decisions and that war will happen. However, he is also aware that doing nothing will hurt his friends and the galaxy, but chooses to cast his vote to give Palpatine emergency power. Lawful neutral.
Senator Padme Amidala journeys to the outer rim world of Rhodia, desperate to ensure its loyalty remains to the Republic.
As the Clone Wars begins, Jar Jar works with Padme to help several planets in need. Put on ship duty after Jar Jar's, he and C-3PO defend themselves against the attack of Separatists. He does try to radio for help, so I'll label this as lawful good.
Not with this on. They so won't be recognizing me. Come on, 3-so. We can do it.
Okay, so I had to check back, and the earliest theories I could find on the Darth Jar Jar were way before this, but this is funny in hindsight. Jar Jar taking Anakin's robes, not knowing it's his or why it's on Padme's ship, is mistaken as a Jedi by the Trade Federation. This actually causes enough distractions to free Padme, but Jar Jar repeatedly tries to send signals to the Republic or save Padme. Honestly, chaotic good.
Be landing.
Howdy ho, Chancellor. Miss, I have a question.
In a moment, Representative Binks.
I would actually recommend this episode to anyone who wants to see Jar Jar done right. Jar Jar goes to collect Count Dooku after a group of pirates capture him, and Anakin and Obi-Wan. After being shot down, Jar Jar uses his knowledge of observation to actually guide the clones in their battle against the pirates. He's all about trying to be diplomatic, but his comedy is used to progress the plot progressively and not hinder it. Overall, lawful good twice, and you know what? I'm gonna give this a nat 20 Jar Jar moment. I'm gonna give it to him. You can't stop me. It's my fucking show. I kicked the fucking desk doing that. Oops.
Senator Amidala and Representative Binks race to Naboo to assess the situation.
Helping Padme on Naboo, Jar Jar stumbles his way into finding out about the dangerous poison being created by the Separatists. Jar Jar finds the labs, eventually leading the Jedi to them, and when the virus breaks out of the lab, Jar Jar does try to help out. Yes, he does accidentally damage Padme's suit, but he was also trying to stop any droids from escaping and thus making the virus from escaping. Neutral good.
I come to speak with the High Exalted King of Toydaria.
Hello?
When Senator Organa goes to help the planet Ryoth, I know they said it a couple times, but I don't remember it, from the neutral Toydarians, Jar Jar aids. However, the Trade Federation is there and insists that neutrality is kept. After getting the okay from both Organa and the head Toydarian, Jar Jar distracts everyone with the dinner performance as Organa sends supplies to the Republic. Also, for you Star Wars fans, Jar Jar did help save the Twi'lek homeworld. Neutral good and lawful good. When Padme requests help from the Gungans in an underwater world, Jar Jar is able to convince his amphibious brethren to help. Even when they're captured by the enemy forces, Jar Jar is able to save Padme from drowning and help turn the tide to another Republic victory. Lawful good.
Jar Jar, do you read me? It's Anakin. We need you to meet us on the surface of Lake Pyonga immediately.
When Separatist sympathy begins to rise in the Gungans from the clearly not evil minister, Jar Jar brings Padme and Anakin to try to convince the new boss. They save the boss from being mind-controlled, but he's injured in the process. That's when Anakin comes up with the crazy idea to dress up Jar Jar and pose as boss. Neutral good?
Maybe not.
It's a Boss Leone. He's alive.
This actually works. Jar Jar is able to convince everyone that he's the boss. When the Federation comes to help begin the attack on Naboo, Jar Jar stalls for time and the Gungans turn off the droids. They're actually able to capture General Grievous. Lawful good. When they discover that Anakin has been captured, and with the offer for prisoner exchange, Jar Jar is able to convince Padme to do it. While the war will continue on, he wants to save his friend too. Chaotic good for that.
Do not touch anything.
Misa not doing nothing.
Receiving a request from the neutral planet of Bardada, I know they said it, I'm sorry, I forget what it's called, Jar Jar goes with Mace Windu when the Queen Julia requests for the Gungan. Jar Jar is able to once again help Mace get onto a planet that reviles the Jedi. This also allows him to... Oh, Jar Jar. Didn't know you got some game, but Jar Jar canonically fucks now. Anyway, Jar Jar helps Mace get out of the snafu and tries to help him in trying to find several missing people. Neutral good.
If I may.
The coming of the Jedi was a sign! It was a sign!
Jar Jar aids Mace in calming down a terrified populace. Working together, Jar Jar is able to find leads, eventually discovering Julia and the missing Bardatans. He's still clumsy, but his intentions are good, helping stopping a threat from a third party benefiting from the war. Lawful good.
Are you coming, Master? Oh no, I'm not brave enough for politics.
With the Clone Wars winding down, Jar Jar and the other senators ask that Palpatine relinquish the emergency powers granted to him. However, it is not enough, as the secret Lord of the Sith creates the first galactic empire, thus dooming the remainder of Jar Jar's life. Lawful neutral. With his friends and the Jedi gone, everyone cites Jar Jar as the main reason Palpatine gained power. Banished from the Gungans again and no longer a senator, Jar Jar lives on Naboo as a street-performing clown. That's sad. After several years, the much-reviled Gungan is able to see the end of the Empire and celebrates in the streets at the birth of the new Republic. Neutral. The reason I did this video was because, in my own opinion, I believe Jar Jar got a bad streak of luck. The guy has shown, under the right circumstances, that he is a force for good. Time and time again, several characters from Qui-Gon, Mace Windu, and the Clone Army realize that Jar Jar is actually way smarter than he seems. It's the classic never judge a book by its cover lesson. The problem is that this was never done in the main series for a multitude of reasons. Most of the character work that Jar Jar has gotten in the main series has been done in the extended universe. Jar Jar actually has the opposite problem that Boba Fett has. Boba has gotten so much lore that when he got his own series, it felt like the creators were playing it safe. Jar Jar, if anything, benefited from the exposure that he didn't get in the main series. He became more realized, competent, and tragic with his ultimate fate. Also, just as a little bit of a side note, I feel that in the original prequel trilogies, Jar Jar was the only character having fun. I don't know why. Like, everyone in the prequels were just really boring most of the time, and Jar Jar, honestly, like, I liked it when he was on screen. He was happy. The prequels felt happy then. There's still a lot of material being released. Ahsoka, Mando Season 3. There's a lot more coming, and I'm just not a big Star Wars fan. If you guys really want, I will look into them, but I need you guys to do all those things that YouTubers are asking. Give me the like, comment, subscribe, please. Let me know in the comments down below what you want. Thank you to the patrons, and I'll see you all next time.